Welcome back, guys, to the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve, where last episode, after learning more about Gina's new dog Toby, we ascended to the experimentation stage to view the scene of destruction and found Prosecutor Van Zeek standing by. Talking to him, we asked about his brother's murder and for help on locating Enoch Drebber, obtaining a photo of the conman before Baruch's assistant arrived, leaving Susato agape and shouting out to Kazuma. After learning that Van Zeek's assistant is an amnesiac, we arranged for Toby the police dog to sniff out the oil on the back of the business card before heading over to Madame Tusspells, ready to confront Waxworks Sholmes about his lie. Before that, though, I do wonder if we should examine some stuff to give Susato the tour of the place, because she seems to like it. Oh, what a horrifying scene! A murderer caught in the grisly act! I know, and in case you were wondering, it's the one with the big knife that's supposed to be the killer. I don't think anybody would be in any doubt about that, surely? And did you know that according to the description, the bathtub at the back has no particular significance? What? Really? I would have thought it was meant to show that the killer also worked in a bathhouse peddling criminal wares. Aha! We have a new theory. Because you can always get random little tidbits of interesting entertainment out of things in the background. Ah yes, the heavy curtains in the middle of the House of Horrors. Whatever's on the other side of them, you just know it's going to be terrifying, don't you? The sign says it's the Madame Tusspells special exhibit. It seems you have to pay extra to go inside. I know, can you believe that? Pay more money, as if we haven't been scared enough already. It's not my doing, Mr. Naruhodo. Even the sign isn't there to be said anymore. I guess this guy is, though. Has he got his arm back? That old policeman isn't here now, obviously. I still can't believe he just happened to be on the jury, though. I'd understood that London has a population of 6 million people, and yet... You do seem to run into the same people disproportionately often, don't you? Shh. Don't unravel the game's secrets. This one's posture reveals his weakness. Sorry. The killer's stance leaves him wide open to attack. I'm quite sure I could see him off. With a Susato takedown, then a Susato squash, and finally a Susato smash! Right. And if that doesn't render the culprit unconscious, a Susato slam should finish him. A Susato slam? Oh, I'm sorry. It's rather hard to explain. Leave yourself open slightly and I'll demonstrate. Absolutely not. Ah, there's a stepladder there. Look. Ah, yes. A stepladder. I think perhaps we should let the proprietress know that someone's left it out. The stepladder, I mean. Is something wrong? Why do I feel as though I just managed to sidestep an argument? I mean, Iris isn't here. There was only a small follow-up to that by the look of it. We really do need to speak with Mr. Sholmes, and I am longing to say hello again. But where is he? I think you might find that he's quite nearby, actually. Oh! What do you... Indeed, my dear fellows, it is I! The world-famous great detective and waxwork, Hairlock Sholmes! Susato-san! Susato-san! Delayed that for a bit, didn't we? My most humble apologies. I thought I died and gone to eternal paradise for a moment, via London. My dear madame, allow me to make amends by offering you a tasty free deduction at some point. As long as it's not of questionable street food quality. I don't understand. Why are you working as a waxwork here, Mr. Sholmes? Merely a secret identity, you understand, though the case is largely solved now. Largely solved? We're talking about the waxwork abduction, I presume. Indeed we are, my good fellow. As I predicted, it was as easy as proverbial pie. Though I confess I'm yet to partake of a pie, proverbial or otherwise, or any food so far today for that matter. That stomach rumble echoed around the whole museum. So how did you manage to solve it so quickly? Ah, well, do you remember I said it was largely sold? Anyway, I simply negotiated with the culprit. Are you familiar with this so-called telephone? Oh yes, it's a most modern invention, allowing you to hold a conversation with people far away. In Japan, only the imperial capital and a handful of other cities are connected as of yet. This morning, a telephone call was received here from the perpetrator of the abduction. As such, I was able to negotiate terms, and in the end, the waxwork was returned. That's amazing! Just between you and I, it would appear the culprit had always intended to return the stolen waxwork in any event. Oh, but I thought whoever was responsible had demanded a ransom, no? Yes, I think perhaps the ransom demand was necessary to avoid unwanted suspicion regarding the true motive. But does that not mean your negotiating was entirely unnecessary? A fact that I must ask you to keep from Madame Tusspells at all costs. A hungry young Iris awaits my return to Baker Street after all. Poor Iris. Now then, do I sense that you have some business with this great waxwork? We're in the process of trying to track down somebody. Oh? Yes, a man by the name of Enoch Drebber. He's the swindler who duped Professor Hairbrain and the engineer who built the kinesis machine. A swindler and an engineer. Quite the modern man. He also seems to be a conjurer of sorts too, with considerable knowledge of stage magic. We really need to locate him before the trial resumes tomorrow morning. But we have so few clues to go on. That's the trouble. Do you have any good ideas? I have no data yet. It is a capital mistake to have good ideas before one has data. If I knew something of the man's appearance at least, I may be in a better position to help. Yes, Drebber's appearance. Fortunately for you, however, presently I have little to occupy myself and little to fill my stomach. As soon as you find any clue, no matter how small, I should gladly give you my thoughts on it. Well then, I guess we'll leave the confrontation about a lie right now to give you more than just a clue. Mr. Sholmes, would you cast your eyes over this photographic print? It's of Mr. Enoch Drebber, the face of the engineer we seek. Well, all Englishmen look broadly the same, of course. So looking at the photograph won't be particularly instructive. Are you alright, Mr. Sholmes? Ah, yes, forgive me. Very interesting, this. Very interesting indeed. What's wrong, Mr. Sholmes? You've turned quite pale all of a sudden. Why won't you tell me? Whoa, he won't straight won't tell me. Well, I'll talk about Kazma's death then. Mr. Sholmes, did you lie to us on, like, multiple occasions? Or admit stuff? My dear Mr. Naruhodo, stay that piercing stare. What is this about? Last winter, when we were first on our way to Britain aboard the steamship. Your words were very clear. So then, let us unravel this mystery and discover what events led to this curious murder. You told us that it was murder, and you examined Kazuma-sama's body. Indeed, and wherein lies the problem? We met him earlier today, the victim, Kazuma Asogi. You're quite sure? He was wearing some sort of mask and was apparently suffering from amnesia. But yes, I'm quite sure. It was Kazuma-sama. You must have known at the time, Mr. Sholmes, that he wasn't actually dead. Well, I can only assume I was swept up in the murderous atmosphere of the moment. But the fellow wasn't dead at all. Ha 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 ha! Priceless! I don't suppose that performance would pass muster, would it, Mr. Naruhodo? I could believe that the crewman present at the time made a mistake, but not you, Mr. Sholmes. I will now tell you something of the first importance, my dear fellow. Great detectives are wont to lie. It will serve you well to remember that. Please, Mr. Sholmes. Tomorrow in court, you will find yourself on the threshold of a very great mystery. For now, I'm afraid that is all I can say. I have a suggestion, Mr. Naruhodo. Will you indulge me? Oh, well, what is it? As I explained to you when you arrived, the missing waxwork has been returned, and I personally reinstalled it in the exhibit from which it was taken, behind those thick curtains. Ah yes, the Professor exhibit, isn't it? Would you like to see it? For a mere 5 shillings? That's a special one-time only price, you understand? What? The opportunity won't come again, I might add. Wouldn't you like to see the fruits of my labour? Oh, well, we do have a rather pressing investigation to carry out. Perhaps we could postpone? The price is a very reasonable 5 shillings. I think you'll find it's well worth it. Are you being quite serious, Mr. Sholmes? Surely you need only look at my expression to ascertain if this is seriousness or silliness. I can never tell with you. That's the point. Very well, it couldn't hurt. Here's your 5 shillings. Gratefully received. So, the special exhibit awaits behind the curtain. I invite you to peruse it at your leisure. Well, the money's been spent, so let's go and see the special exhibit. Through those heavy curtains at last. I guess I shall then. 5 shillings we've had to pay. It doesn't seem right somehow that Mr. Sholmes slipped the money into his own pocket, does it? No. Ah, we could ask Gina to retrieve it for us, using her special skills. Pickpocketing police officers and diddling detectives. Is this what makes Britain great? Not to mention demigod prosecutors taking the law into their own hands, or chip-loving inspectors. Inspector Gregson comes off rather well in that list, I think. And so wherever we're going, whatever we're seeing, the special exhibit requires an intro. Oh dear, I felt a shiver run down my spine as soon as we walked in here. Miss Susanoo, I say we turn on the heels and go straight home. By a really big confectionery. We certainly can't do that. We paid 5 shillings already. True. Actually, now I'm looking a little more closely. We've paid good money to see an exhibit that's clearly incomplete. The nerve of the great diddling detective is far more terrifying than anything else in this place. This must be what Mr. Sholmes meant when he said the case was largely solved. Be that as it may, Mr. Sholmes heavily implied there'd be a clue about the engineer in here, didn't he? But where? Since we paid 5 shillings, let's do 5 shillings worth of investigation, shall we? Yes, we will get what we paid for. Is that fear or frustration that's making Suzuto-san's voice tremble? Well, I guess first of all, we want to examine more of this guy over here than the headless guy over here. I'm also wondering if that's a separate thing, because that's never been a good time for us so far. This part of the exhibit is just as disturbing as the rest. It looks so real. There seems to be a young man in a white overcoat, and he has a large shovel in his hand too. Look. Perhaps we should investigate in a little more detail. Oh, the guy moved then. I know what you really want to speak about. Come on. Yeah. What a large shovel. He's holding it rather ominously, isn't he? What on earth was the man doing with a shovel in a graveyard in the middle of the night? Miss Susato. Yes? That's a spade, isn't it? No, it's a shovel. No. Shovels are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a spade. We've been through this, Mr. Naruhodo. It's a shovel. No. Although we haven't considered trowels. Excellent. We've allowed ourselves to be distracted, I feel. Perhaps we should concentrate on what the man was doing with the implement. So we're going to bury the hatchet. You're right, though. What was the man doing in the graveyard in the first place? That's the real question. No, that was the question. We need to figure this out further, didn't we? Don't let me look at the face very well, do you? What's this here? Well, this would appear to be a lens in the middle, so I believe it's probably a camera. A camera? But it's so small! British technology is incredible, isn't it? I mean, what about Mr. Sholmes' skin prints? I think perhaps you should treat Mr. Sholmes' inventions as exceptions to the rule. But anyway, why would the man be in a graveyard at night with a camera? I wonder. Perhaps he was trying to capture the moment a dead body came back as a ghost on film. We'll just borrow this for a little while, I think. We have a camera. We've taken. By looking in the photographic plate inside the camera, we can see what picture was taken. What's a photographic plate? It's a piece of glass coated in a special emulsion that reacts to the light coming in through the lens. If we open the cover at the back of the camera, we should find it. Let's have a look. You should see yourself, Susato-san. Your eyes are shining. You really do like machinery, don't you? I have to back all the way out to see the things. I can't see his face very well, can you? Perhaps if I just... Oh, do you think you should be manhandling the exhibits, Mr. Naruhodo? I'll put it back exactly as it was, don't worry. We could have walked in front of it, surely. Ah! But what on earth? How can... I don't believe it. A black monocle. Mr. Naruhodo, is it possible that this man is... Yes. It's Enoch Drebber. The color of his hair is different, but it's unmistakably him. Indeed it is. Mr. Sholmes! This man is the subject of your present hunt, I believe. Yes, that's right. Just who is this man? Why is he here in this exhibit? And why does the convict behind him have no head? The head was missing when the model was returned by the thief who stole it. What a surprise. So then the case isn't yet solved, is it? Did I not say so myself? Largely solved, my words, I believe. But I must locate the missing head tout de suite, as Madame would say, or I'll be in grave trouble. A very hungry Irish still awaits my return to Baker Street, preferably with rations. Ah. Do you know, though, something about this room is strange. Strange? What do you mean? Well, the displays in the House of Horrors are supposed to depict real events, are they not? Indeed they are, Miss Susato. Do go on. And as terrifying as they are, the scenes in the other exhibits are believable. But this one... This surely couldn't ever really have happened, could it? I think it's time I educated you a little. About the nature of the incidents involving the professor 10 years ago. Ooh, I still want more to examine more. Wow. The resurrecting convict. I believe I told you a little about the professor yesterday, did I not? He took the lives of 5 victims, everyone being either a member of the aristocracy or royalty. All were attacked by an enormous hunting hound and had their throats ripped from their bodies. Oh gosh, an enormous hound? How awful. After taking the life of his 5th victim, the killer was apprehended. It was a case of unprecedented magnitude in Britain, you understand. Accordingly, the professor was tried in a closed court. No members of the public were permitted. A closed court? So you mean that the professor's identity... As you surmise, my dear fellow, his identity was never made public. Naturally, he was found guilty and was summarily sentenced to death by hanging. He was buried in a grave at Lowgate Cemetery, which adjoins the rear of the prison where he had been held. However, that was not the end of the affair. Oh! The very night that he was buried, the convicted man came back to life. Came back to life? He clawed his way out of the ground and emerged into the moonlit graveyard. The exhibit here depicts that very scene as described by the sole witness to those chilling events. There was a witness. But of course, my dear fellow, it was none other than... the young man in the white overcoat. Enoch Drebber. He saw it happen. Well. Well, before I continue on too much, by the way, I am going to examine. You never know where things might lead, because I will probably forget about the photoplay otherwise. Oh look, the cover came open. Yes, now there should be a glass plate inside. You have to change the plate with each new photograph you want to take, you see. Is something wrong? There is no plate. It's been removed. Ah, what a pity. Well, I suppose if you think about it, this wouldn't be the actual camera that was used at the time, just like the waxwork isn't the actual person. So we'd never have found a photographic print of the executed convict coming back to life anyway. Oh, yes, you're quite right, of course. Poor Susato-san. She looks devastated. Now I'm worried that one will appear at some point in time. Whoa, what a wonderful machine! You really love contraptions like this, don't you? Oh yes, anything mechanical I find absolutely irresistible. Almost irresistible, surely? Well, whenever I see a pocket watch, for example, I can't help myself. I simply have to take it apart. That's worrying. Yes, Father tells the time by the rumblings of his stomach now. He's given up having a watch. Poor Professor Mikotoba. Let me see, Naruhodo. What is it? On the bellows, just here. There seem to be some very dark red stains. Yes, you're right. It looks like blood, actually. Oh my. I'm sure it's not what you're thinking. The details of the camera have been updated in the court record. Well, we found a little bit more than we were intending to, by the look of things. A camera of blood on. Why? Ain't that the question, really? Why? This must be the killer! The fiend known as the Professor! Yes, I think so. According to what Madame Tusspells said, he killed 5 victims, all of noble or royal blood. The waxwork is so lifelike, isn't it? Like all the models in this place. I know. Looks like it could start moving at any moment, doesn't it? Only had a head, that is. Perhaps we should examine it in a little more detail. Ooh, we can we? So this is the condemned man. Yes, the so-called professor. Then perhaps his head was just chopped off by a guillotine. But unable to find peace, he emerged from his grave as a headless ghost. Do we have to entertain such terrifying ideas, Miss Susato? Anyway, I'm sure the model had a head once. There's a metal fitting for it, see? Then perhaps Mr. Sholmes absent-mindedly forgot to reattach it. That's an extremely absent-minded detective you're describing, isn't it? Or perhaps the thief absent-mindedly forgot to include the head when he or she returned it to the museum. And that would be an extremely absent-minded thief. Could there have been some reason why only the head wasn't returned? Well, whatever the reason, it means we don't know what the face of the infamous professor looked like, do we? Oh! There's something caught just inside the convict's jacket here. It looks like a piece of broken glass, and quite a big piece too. It's very thick, isn't it? About 5 times thicker than normal window glazing, I'd say. Where could such a thick piece of glass have come from, I wonder? I suppose it must have been made thick to increase its strength. But why? Well, perhaps because the glass had to span a particularly wide area, such as in a big building, for example. Ah, well, we've seen a large glass building recently, haven't we? And some of the glass was broken too. You don't mean... Exactly. The Crystal Tower at the Great Exhibition. Why would glass from the Crystal Tower be lodged inside this Waxworks jacket? It makes you think, doesn't it? That's an interesting thing to pick up here. Earlier in course, we established that the kinesis experiment was a trick. And now we discover this fragment of glass here in this waxwork. Is it just a coincidence? No, I was wondering if the dirty hands might have something significant about them, but it seems that that is the only thing that is significant about this scene. The only thing that's examinable, let's put it that way. Even the owl isn't, after all. Don't know if I can really examine more about you, sir. So let's return to conversing with Sholmes, unless I can look at anything regarding the piece of glass. But I'm assuming it's kind of just a chunk of glass, so... yeah. This piece of glass is almost as thick as it is wide. Yes, I've never seen anything like it. If you were to compare it to a human, only Mr. Sholmes has such thick skin. There's really no need for such a comparison, Mr. Naruhodo, as you well know. Anyway, it can only be from the Crystal Tower, surely. Yes, I think so too. It was probably made especially to meet the demands of that great structure. That didn't get me an update, though. Nothing seemingly more to do with it. So, about the young witness, Sholmes. So this is a waxwork model of Enoch Drebber. 10 years ago, the convicted professor, having been gibbeted and buried, emerged from his grave in the dead of night. The sole witness to that unimaginable scene was this young man. From appearances, I would say he was about 20 years old. It's so horrifying. Scared out of his wits, the young Drebber ran to a nearby police station to report the incident. And the sheer terror of what he'd seen is said to have turned his hair white overnight. Yes, as shown in the photograph we have of him. His hair is completely white. For the following few days, the story of what he'd seen was on every front page in the capital. The public was frantic for every last detail about the killer who'd come back to life. As you've seen, an exhibit was even created here at Madame Tusspells. I can quite understand why the man's hair turned white, certainly. But what I don't understand is what Mr. Drebber was doing in the first place. In a lonely graveyard in the middle of the night. Yes, what was he up to? So following the execution, the professor's acts of terror threw London's upper classes into complete panic 10 years ago. It was a great scandal, one might say, at the very highest levels of society. And since the killer's identity was never made public, rumors abounded. After all, no killer had ever before systematically employed a dog as a weapon of murder. Yes, I can imagine the impact the case must have had. But in time, of course, the rumors abated. So too did talk of the shocking witness account of the convict who came back to life. It was forgotten, dismissed as a dubious ghost story, as a preposterous parlor tale. But why did people stop believing it? Why? Simply because there was no resurrection to speak of, as was established in fact. What do you mean by no resurrection? The police investigated the grave in Lowgate Cemetery and published their findings. The convict's body was found to be buried exactly where it had been following the execution. No, but that would mean Mr. Drebber must have lied to the police and the newspapers. That would appear to be the only logical explanation, yes. The young man subsequently vanished from society and nothing has been heard of him since. It's rather striking, then, that he should resurface now, don't you think? Of course, the convicted murderer couldn't really have come back to life. That's not possible. But Drebber's hair is unusually white, and if that really did happen overnight as a result of shock, it's hard to believe the incident was an out-and-out lie. Hey, Gina. What the bleeding? Nora, Odo, what have you gone and done? Gina, what are you doing here? I asked Iris, and she said this is where you'd be. So? Gina, not so loud in the museum. Madame Tusspells will have you take a position as a waxworker if you're not careful. I think there might be a more pressing concern. I still have some flash powder left from 6 months ago, so? All right, Gina, we understand, but please put down the gun. Sorry, I got scared. It seems you did. But if you have shown up, that means that something is afoot. The game, even? Do you have the tracking of Toby? Has it found a secret base, a lair of Enoch Drebber, who is also right there? Would that surprise you too? I do not know. But we will continue this. Continue on the trail. Next time on the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve, where we wonder what news Gina has to share with us. I'll see you guys next time for that. Bye-bye.